There's a kind of violence that doesn't break bones or raise voices. It lingers in the air between people, silent, invisible, but unmistakably real. You feel it before you understand it, the subtle tightening of a jaw, the way someone's eyes refuse to blink, the micro-pause before a handshake. It's aggression without a weapon, hostility without a word. Most never recognize it because it hides behind civility. It laughs, it compliments, it plays polite. Yet beneath the surface, something sharp watches, waiting for the moment of weakness. This is how power operates in the modern world, not through open war but through psychological positioning. Hidden aggression isn't the rage of the unrefined, it's the art of the controlled. It thrives in boardrooms, in families, in friendships that pretend to be safe. The aggressor doesn't need to shout to dominate. They only need to tilt their head a certain way, take a slightly wider stance, hold your gaze 1 second too long. These gestures say what the mouth never dares to. They declare, "I'm in control here." And most people, too distracted or too conditioned to be nice, submit without realizing they've surrendered. Machiavelli would call this the quiet theater of dominance, the power that doesn't need to announce itself because it already governs through perception. The most dangerous individuals aren't those who lose control, but those who never need to. Their calm is not peace, it's calculation. They've mastered the oldest form of warfare, presence. And if you can't read it, you'll always play their game blind. The truth is, aggression hasn't disappeared from modern life. It's evolved. It's learned to wear a smile, speak softly, and move strategically. And once you start to see it, you can never unsee it. Machiavelli understood something that most psychologists and politicians still fail to grasp. Power doesn't exist in words, it lives in presence. In The Prince, he never spoke of loud men, only effective ones. The true ruler, he said, is the one who influences without being seen doing so. Power's greatest trick is subtlety. It doesn't declare, it implies, it doesn't demand, it suggests. And nowhere is this more visible than in the body. Before any empire is conquered, a single gesture has already established who commands and who obeys. The body is the oldest political instrument in existence, a silent negotiation of dominance that unfolds long before speech begins. Machiavelli would have studied this as an art form. To Machiavelli, power was never moral or emotional, it was mechanical. It operated through perception. Appear confident long enough and people surrender to the illusion of your control. Appear harmless and you disarm suspicion. Even silence in his view was a form of strategy, a pause that forces others to reveal their own insecurity. Hidden aggression, then, is nothing but Machiavellian elegance. It's the psychological language of those who understand influence as an act of theater. Behind every calm smile is a calculation. How much can I gain without appearing to take? The predator in polite clothing, the diplomat whose kindness is a mask for leverage. Machiavelli would recognize them instantly, not as villains, but as students of human nature. For him, power wasn't about cruelty, it was about awareness. Those who fail to read appearances become ruled by them. And in the modern age, where dominance wears perfume and charm, learning to see through the performance is no longer philosophy, it's survival. Hidden aggression is not born from chaos, but from control. It's the violence of someone who has learned to weaponize restraint. Before a person ever speaks a word, their body leaks the truth their mind wants to conceal. A slight narrowing of the eyes, a breath held too long, a stillness that feels unnatural. The body is a battlefield where intentions betray the mask of civility. While the conscious mind constructs polite sentences, the subconscious communicates raw emotion through posture, tone, and tension. You can't hide contempt in your shoulders or disguise resentment in your jaw. The body always confesses. Before people attack verbally or socially, their bodies declare war first. It begins with spatial assertion. A person stepping slightly too close, using objects as territorial markers, occupying more space than the context allows. Then comes the rigidity, the micro-freeze of suppressed hostility. Their gestures lose fluidity, replaced by mechanical precision. It's the language of dominance without words. When someone's gaze becomes too steady, too controlled, it's not connection, it's containment. The cold stare is the primitive remnant of a predator evaluating prey. And when combined with an artificial smile, the contrast exposes intent. Diplomacy on the surface, aggression beneath. Psychologically, this is how dominance disguises itself in civilized society. In a world where overt aggression is punished, power evolves to hide behind posture and politeness. The body becomes the acceptable outlet for instincts the mind has learned to repress. What was once a snarl is now a smirk. What was once a territorial roar is now an assertive lean across a conference table. Yet the same primal dynamics remain: control, submission, hierarchy. The human body, clothed in etiquette and education, still moves like an animal negotiating survival. And Machiavelli would remind us, whoever masters this silent conversation of gestures holds the real authority, because they can strike without appearing to move at all. You've seen it before, even if you didn't have the words for it. The meeting where the boss leans back in his chair, smiling politely, but his jaw pulses like he's grinding invisible teeth. The tone is light, almost friendly, yet every muscle in his face screams restraint. His words drip with courtesy. Good work, but let's improve this part. While his body radiates irritation he refuses to name. Across the table, someone laughs nervously, pretending not to feel the tension that fills the air like static. This is what hidden aggression feels like. A storm disguised as calm, or the friend who crosses his arms a little too tightly, not in comfort, but in self-protection. He nods while you speak, but his shoulders have already retreated, closing the space between you. You sense the withdrawal, the quiet resistance, but can't explain why your chest feels heavy. His voice remains soft, his smile intact, yet something colder lurks beneath. A subtle push that tells you to stop talking, to step back, to yield. You leave the conversation confused, feeling you've done something wrong, when in truth you've just brushed against unspoken hostility. Then there's the partner who touches your shoulder during an argument, not to comfort, but to re-establish control. The contact is brief but firm, a reminder of who dictates the emotional pace. Their eyes soften as their hand lands, but the tension in their fingers reveals the truth. Affection used as dominance, closeness used as pressure. The body becomes the weapon and the disguise simultaneously. Their words are kind, but their posture betrays hostility. Once you learn to feel it, you realize it's everywhere, in dinner tables, office corridors, public debates, even quiet hugs. Most people don't intend to attack, but their unresolved frustration seeps through gestures they can't censor. And once your eyes adjust to this subtle violence, you start to see it in everyone, in strangers, in lovers, in yourself. It's not paranoia, it's perception. The most dangerous aggression is the one that pretends to be peace. It doesn't announce itself with shouts or threats. It hides behind poise, reason, and charm. True power never needs to raise its voice, because control expressed through stillness is far more effective than control expressed through rage. The Machiavellian mind knows this. Anger is for amateurs. Composure is for rulers. Those who react lose position. Those who contain emotion dictate reality. In the game of hidden dominance, your ability to remain calm while others tremble becomes the ultimate weapon. And this calm isn't genuine serenity. It's engineered silence, the disciplined restraint of someone who understands that visibility is vulnerability. When you face such a person, you often mistake their composure for fairness. You think they're reasonable, balanced, safe. But look closely. They are not reacting because they are calculating. Every pause, every slow blink, every measured word is designed to shape the field around them. Their body language doesn't mirror empathy. It asserts control. They manage the tempo of interaction like a conductor directing emotion, guiding you towards submission while you believe you're being understood. Machiavelli would say that the most effective leader is not the strongest or the loudest, but the one who can appear harmless while orchestrating the entire game. This is the paradox of power, the wolf wearing the skin of a monk. The aggressive disguise itself as calmness, because calmness disarms. And when you fail to recognize this, you willingly hand over your psychological territory. You interpret manipulation as maturity, dominance as confidence, emotional detachment as wisdom. The tragedy is that most people lose these battles without ever realizing a war was fought. They walk away feeling guilty, confused, or strangely inferior, not knowing they were subdued by posture, not argument. Machiavelli's lesson is brutal but true. The ones who control their bodies control the room. Those who can't read the signals become pieces on someone else's chessboard. Picture the politician on a debate stage. His face glows with confidence, his smile immaculate, but his movements tell the real story. Each time his opponent speaks, he shifts forward an inch, subtly invading space. When the other retreats, he smiles wider, a predator confirming victory. He gestures with open palms as if inviting dialogue, yet his stance blocks every line of escape. The audience sees civility, but Machiavelli would see a strategist using proximity as a weapon. In politics, dominance is perception, and space is power. The one who controls it controls the crowd's unconscious allegiance. Then there's the colleague, who lightly places a hand on your shoulder during a conversation. To the untrained eye, it's friendly, supportive even. But the touch lingers just a moment too long, anchored, claiming. It's not affection, it's assertion. In that second, he marks territory, reminding you of hierarchy without saying a word. Machiavelli would smile at the precision, a gesture that signals control while pretending to express care. The genius of subtle domination lies in plausible deniability. It looks kind but feels commanding. Or the partner who holds your gaze long after comfort fades. At first it feels intimate, but soon it becomes a contest of willpower. They don't blink, they don't look away. You feel the tension build, the invisible struggle for emotional ground. What appears to be love becomes psychological warfare. Machiavelli would call this the discipline of presence, the art of maintaining composure until the other collapses into compliance. It's not passion, it's conquest, masked as connection. In all these cases, aggression wears manners like armor. The manipulator doesn't need to shout or threaten. Their mastery lies in the illusion of calm. The body becomes an empire of microcalculations. Who moves first, who yields, who occupies more space, who speaks slower. Power is performed through rhythm and silence. Those who understand this choreography command without commanding. Those who don't serve without realizing they've already surrendered. You're not crazy. You're being read, measured, and manipulated. The unease you feel around certain people isn't paranoia, it's recognition. Your body notices what your mind tries to dismiss. The slight quickening of your heartbeat, the sudden stiffness in your neck, the strange exhaustion after a simple interaction. These are not coincidences. They are signals that your nervous system has registered a hidden threat long before your intellect catches up. When you can't see the source of that aggression, it turns inward. You start to doubt yourself, wondering why you always feel small around specific people, why you apologize for things you didn't do, why you leave conversations drained instead of understood. This is the invisible toll of psychological warfare. Unseen manipulation breeds self-blame. The more refined the aggression, the more confused the victim becomes. Because the attack is social, not physical, subtle enough to be denied, gentle enough to be dismissed, you begin to question your sanity. The aggressor hides behind plausible innocence. I didn't mean anything by it. You're overreacting. Over time, this erodes your confidence. You begin to shrink preemptively, anticipating judgment before it happens. You smile more to avoid tension, agree faster to escape discomfort. What you don't realize is that each small concession teaches your subconscious that visibility is unsafe. You start censoring your truth just to keep the peace, not knowing that peace was the weapon all along. Machiavelli would say this is the perfect strategy. Make your opponent doubt their own perception, and you no longer need to control their actions. They will self-regulate in your favor. Hidden aggression thrives on this confusion. The victim becomes both soldier and prisoner, fighting an invisible enemy inside their own mind. But awareness breaks the spell. The moment you can see the power play, the guilt dissolves. You stop interpreting manipulation as misunderstanding. You realize that the discomfort was never your weakness. It was your intuition trying to wake you up. There's a hidden ritual taking place in every human interaction, an unspoken contest that decides who leads and who follows, who absorbs and who projects. It's what Machiavelli would call The silent duel. No swords, no raised voices, no visible battlefield. Only posture, rhythm, and gaze. Every movement, every pause, every tilt of the head becomes a maneuver in this invisible war of presence. Dominance disguised as calm. Submission disguised as politeness. Two nervous systems negotiating power beneath the mask of civility. You feel it when someone's stillness makes you uneasy, when their voice slows down just enough to force you to fill the silence, when their eyes linger and your body instinctively yields. That is not conversation, it's combat. The silent duel is the modern echo of ancient survival. Before language, dominance was established through space, eye contact, and composure. Those instincts never left us, they only evolved into subtler forms. What we call professionalism, confidence, or charisma are often just refined expressions of control. In this duel, words are irrelevant. The body decides who wins. The calmest person is not necessarily the kindest, but the one who refuses to flinch first. Stillness becomes a throne. Silence becomes a weapon. Every nod, every breath, every glance communicates hierarchy. Once you learn to see this pattern, the world changes. You stop mistaking charm for warmth or stillness for safety. You begin to recognize that every room has its duel, at dinner tables, in offices, in relationships. And survival doesn't belong to the loud or the aggressive, but to the perceptive. The one who reads the field without reacting to it. The one who can sense tension before it breaks. That's the essence of Machiavellian awareness. Understanding that human interaction is never neutral. It's always negotiation, always movement beneath the surface. And those who can perceive. The silent duel. Don't just survive it. They win it without having to fight. To detect hidden aggression isn't paranoia, it's strategy. In a world that glorifies charm and diplomacy, awareness becomes your only defense. Machiavelli would say the battle for power is never fought with weapons, but with perception. Whoever sees the game first controls its tempo. To read the body is to see behind the mask, to anticipate what others can only react to. It's not about suspicion, it's about sovereignty. When you learn to observe rather than absorb, you stop being a participant in other people's hidden wars and become the architect of your own boundaries. Most people mistake sensitivity for weakness, but in reality, sensitivity is a radar. It detects what logic ignores, the twitch of insecurity behind a compliment, the micro-hesitation before a lie, the tight smile that hides contempt. Once you train this perception, you stop being manipulated by appearances. You understand that every movement reveals intention, and every gesture exposes hierarchy. The person who can interpret these signals holds silent authority. They no longer need to confront or defend, they simply know. And in a world built on illusion, knowledge is the purest form of control. Machiavelli would remind you that real power doesn't shout, it anticipates. The ability to predict aggression before it surfaces is the mark of psychological mastery. You can disarm conflict by recognizing it early, redirecting energy instead of resisting it. This isn't aggression, it's elegance. The strategist doesn't fight chaos, they absorb it, translate it, and use it. By seeing clearly, you neutralize the manipulator's advantage, because their strength depends on your blindness. Awareness then becomes an act of rebellion, a quiet revolution of consciousness. You are no longer a pawn reacting to unseen moves. You are the observer who sees the board. You begin to embody what Machiavelli called the rarest form of power, command without confrontation. The body becomes your language of defense, posture as boundary, stillness as authority, perception as freedom. When you finally learn to see, everything slows down. You sense the tension before the betrayal, the shift in tone before the word is spoken, the subtle imbalance in a room before it becomes conflict. You no longer get pulled into emotional traps because you recognize them as performances. Every movement, every breath, every silence becomes information. You stop reacting and start observing. And that simple shift, from reaction to awareness, transforms you. People feel your presence differently now. You don't need to assert control. You radiate it. Your calmness unsettles aggressors because they can no longer locate your weakness. You read the game while they still believe they're playing it. You understand that true dominance requires no effort. It is the quiet confidence of someone who can see through illusion. The body no longer betrays you, it protects you. What once felt like fear becomes intuition. What once was confusion becomes strategy. In that still awareness, you embody the most powerful form of influence, silent, grounded, and untouchable. Power doesn't speak, it moves. It shifts through the air like a current, invisible but felt by every nervous system in the room. Aggression doesn't shout. It hides in posture, in gaze, in the distance someone keeps or refuses to give. Once you see it, the illusion of civility collapses. You realize most human interactions are quiet negotiations of control, choreographed beneath the surface of words. The strong are not loud, they are still. The weak are not silent, they are reactive. The game was never about noise, it was about presence. Machiavelli would whisper that mastery begins when you stop mistaking movement for meaning. The one who moves least commands most. The one who watches governs. Reading the body becomes a sacred art, the decoding of human nature in real time. And in that awareness you no longer seek to dominate or submit. You simply stand, anchored and awake, seeing the truth for what it is. Power doesn't need performance. It exists in the quiet certainty of someone who cannot be deceived. Which gestures have you seen, but ignored? The handshake that lingered too long, the smile that felt more like a warning, the silence that spoke louder than any insult. How many times have you mistaken control for kindness, or tension for sincerity? The body never lies, but most people never listen. This is your initiation into awareness, into the language that power speaks when it wants to stay unseen. Once you begin to observe, you step out of manipulation's reach. You stop reacting to appearances and start decoding intention. Look around you. The next conversation, the next meeting, the next glance across a room, they all carry signals waiting to be read. Every movement is a message, every pause a negotiation. Machiavelli would say, "The one who reads the body rules the truth behind the mask." So train your eyes to see what others miss. Stay silent but alert. Watch before you speak. And if you're ready to master this invisible art of power, to turn perception into protection, subscribe, because this was just the beginning.